I've talked about the observations that are the basis for our ending lockdown strategy. I'd now like to talk to you about how we'll be organizing the daily lives of French people starting on May 11th. Our national strategy for exiting lockdown sets rules that will be applicable on some priority areas: schools, companies and businesses, transportation, stores, gatherings, and so forth. Let's start by talking about schools. Our president recalled this. It's imperative for our children to go back to school. It's imperative for social justice, for educational purposes, especially for students who have a hard time with remote learning. A return to schools. We want to do this and all the while adhere to our public health objectives. To that end, we're proposing gradually reopening kindergartens and elementary schools starting on May 11th throughout France on a voluntary basis. Subsequently, after that, starting on May 18th and only in the départements where circulation of virus is low, we will consider opening middle schools beginning with fifth graders and sixth graders. We will then decide end of May whether we can reopen high schools starting with vocational high schools beginning of June. This decision hasn't been made lightly. We consulted various people, we considered the pros and cons, we looked at what other countries have done. Reopening schools is necessary to guarantee the educational success of all students, especially those that are in a difficult situation and are suffering from the lockdown. School classes will be reopened adhering to special health rules, no more than 15 students per class. People have to show social distancing, strict hygiene, and there must be available sanitizer gel. Everyone will receive masks that they will have to wear when they cannot show social distancing. Now, regarding masks for children, scientists have told us the following. Wearing masks will not be worn by kindergarten children. It's not appropriate for them in elementary schools. The National Education Department will provide pediatric masks available to school principals for special cases. For instance, if a child during a day is starting to show symptoms while waiting for the parents to pick up that child, he might be given a mask to wear. We'll have masks available for middle schoolers who could wear these and who weren't able to get them for themselves. It will be compulsory for middle schoolers who wear masks. A great deal of prep work will have to be done in every school district so that we can prepare this very unusual back-to-school period. Children will have to do their curriculum in the maximum of 15 per class, or remotely at home for remote learning, which will continue to be free of charge, of course. If the premises are available, and some other premises may also be made available by local governments for schooling purposes, as well as athletics, cultural events, and other similar events. I admired how national education has worked so hard during this period. Thousands of teachers have been working so hard to teach children during this period. And will continue being taught. We've seen great generosity of people who've reinvented themselves to provide new ways of remote teaching to their pupils. All of us, I'm sure, would have examples we could tell about extraordinary inventiveness of teachers, real commitment we've seen, so they could make sure that that important relationship between the teacher and the pupil would remain even during the time of lockdown. I will give great flexibility to local decisions here. School principals, parents, local governments together will find the best solutions very pragmatically. I will support them, we will support them, and we trust them. Child care centers will also be reopened. Child care, 10 children at most. In each center, several groups of 10 could be accommodated if there's enough space, and if it's possible to do this without having those groups cross each other. The capacity reduction, at least initially, will lead to a question of prioritizing already specific social and economic criteria used for health care, accepting health care of children, and we won't make these decisions instead of the managers of these child care facilities. But it's a different situation when you have two parents who can work from home versus maybe a single parent who cannot work from home. We'll take this into account. We'll take into account providing facilities for healthcare providers as well. Wearing masks by the public will be necessary for people who are in contact with young children. And of course, children under the age of 3 will not have to wear masks. Ending lockdown will make it possible to resume economic life. To that end, we'll have to organize the way things are done at work. Working from home must be maintained whenever possible, at least for the next 3 weeks. I'm asking this emphatically of businesses. Since mid-March, we've seen large-scale rollout of home working. We know the constraints, but this has to continue so we can reduce the use of mass transit and reduce the number of contacts people have with others. There's not going to be a before and an after May 11th in that respect. For people who can't work from home, we're going to have to try to encourage staggered work in businesses to reduce rush hour peak periods in mass transit and to reduce the number of workers on the job at the same time. Regarding working conditions, we've got to continue with what the Labor Ministry has already done and professional organizations to put together guides and instructions for each particular profession. 33 guides are already available. We'd need around 60 to cover all types of jobs. I've asked the Labor Minister to make sure these guides are ready for May 11th. It's an interesting thing to be doing. It's very specific, and it brings into the loop social partners. This needs to be organized in each business, reorganizing the way jobs are done, paying special attention to social distancing, reorganizing working times. People must wear masks whenever they can't be physically distant from co-workers. That cannot be guaranteed in the work organization. Thursday, I'll have discussions with employee representatives and employer representatives. Social dialogue at every level has to be active on this point to make it possible to go back to work and all the while certainly guarantee health and safety of employees. That's an absolute prerequisite. We'll also have discussions about the flanking measures for businesses that are coping with difficulties. Short-time work. We've got some of the most generous arrangements for this in Europe. These will remain in force until June. Gradually, this will be tailored, adapted as a resumption of business if we control the epidemic. Of course, we'll continue protecting the most vulnerable people and the job sectors that will remain shut down. Stores will reopen as well, starting on May 11th. Currently, only some stores, essential stores, remain open. All, except coffee shops and restaurants, will be allowed to reopen starting May 11th. Markets, currently, they've been banned, and they're just authorized exceptionally. Generally, henceforth, after May 11th, markets will be allowed unless prefects or mayors feel the markets cannot be organized in conditions that enable compliance with social distancing and physical distancing. Stores will be reopening, but each of them must meet very clear specifications, limiting the number of people in the store at the same time, organizing traffic flows in the stores to make sure there's a minimal distance of 1 meter between each person, and people are not in touch with each other. They must make sure their employees are protected as well, of course. Regarding mask wearing, will recommend wearing masks when it's not possible to organize physical distancing. A store seller could require people to wear masks before coming into the store. I'd like to